So today I'm going to be taking you guys through my Game Week 1 team. I'm going to start out with my forwards, and my first budget forward is going to be Calvert-Lewin. Now, firstly, he's had a good preseason under his belt, which is the first time in a while he's been able to have that. Secondly, he's got great fixtures. He's also on penalties, and I think he's of the age now where he's due a resurgence in his career, let's say. That doesn't mean he's going to get 20 goals this season, but I expect him to outperform his value of 6 million. And if you look at the fixtures for Everton, these first 10 fixtures are very good. They're very good. You could go someone like Joao Pedro instead, who's 0.5 cheaper, but the fixtures aren't as good, and Joao Pedro plays slightly deeper. There's also a few questions about the amount of minutes he's going to get. I don't think Joao Pedro is a bad pick, but my instincts are telling me to go with Calvert-Lewin here. Next, Isak. I won't say too much about him, just because it's quite obvious that he's an essential player. I don't think there's any chance he gets rotated with Wilson this season, just because of the amount of injuries that Wilson has and Wilson's age at 32. I think they're trying to ease him out of the team now, as Isak is kind of the new main man. Haaland alongside them. Now, I think with Haaland, when you're paying the 15 million, you're not just paying for the single games. You're paying for the captaincy. That's why you have to pay the extra for him, because you're going to be captaining him almost every week. Ironically, the captain for me this week will be Isak, and Haaland will be the vice captain. But almost every other week, Haaland will be the captain. You can look at his fixtures if you like, but honestly, for Haaland, I don't think the fixtures really matter. You back him to score against pretty much anyone. Maybe some of the Arsenal away games or something, you can say, oh, he might not score a hat-trick in those games, but you still wouldn't be surprised if he scored. So I think Haaland's essential. Now, I'm going to go to the midfielders where it gets a little bit more controversial, because I'm going double Manchester United in midfield, and I will explain why. So, for Fernandes, he's on penalties and he's great for bonus. So if he gets an assist or a goal, he usually takes a few bonus points. I also think that if Mainu and Casemiro sit slightly deeper this season, that will give Fernandes, a free roam. And when he has that kind of free roam, he puts up incredible numbers, similar to what he was doing in his early days at United, where he was getting 15 goals, 15 assists type of numbers. So I think there's a chance this season that we could see that again. And he's just signed a new contract as well. Garnacho, he's one of those players where I just see his career trajectory as being constantly upwards, similar to with players like Saka, where you see every single year there's a progression in the numbers. Garnacho got 7 goals and 7 assists last season, I believe. So I'd expect him to get around 10 goals and 10 assists this season, which would be an outperformance of his value, I think. Next, we're going to go Nkunku. Now, I will caveat this by saying I am getting a bit worried about the minutes. I still think he's in Chelsea's best 11, but is he going to be getting subbed off at 70 minutes? Is he going to be rested for the odd game? Because they have so many options in that 3 behind the striker. You'd assume Palmer will play on the right, Nkunku down the middle, and maybe Neto or Sterling on the left. But say they want to play Madueke for a game, they'll shift Palmer to Nkunku's position down the middle, put Madueke on the right, and Nkunku will probably be out the team. However, Nkunku is also on direct free kicks by the look of it, which is a good thing to have for him. And I think this first game against Man City's midfield for this game is not actually going to be that good. It's going to be Kovacic, Nunez, and McAtee, because they still have players who are on holiday, like Rodri. So I think there's going to be spaces in the midfield for Nkunku to exploit. So let's see. Next midfielder is Gordon. I just love the player, to be honest with you. There's some questions that he might not start against Southampton, but even if he got brought on for 20 to 30 minutes against Southampton, I'm still almost expecting him to get a goal or assist. I've thought about going Jota instead for the same price for the first 2 game weeks, but the problem is if I go Jota, I feel like I'm just booking in a transfer where after 2 weeks I'll move him to Gordon anyway. So it's almost like Jota would be with a -4 because I'd be using a transfer on him after 2 weeks. But it's still something that I'm considering. My last midfielder slot goes to Smith Rowe. Again, if you just look at the value, you can't really go without him. He's one of these players with good early fixtures as well, so his price could easily rise if he scores a couple in the first few games. He's had a good pre-season, even for Arsenal. Before he moved to Fulham, he scored for Arsenal, and now he scored 2 goals in 2 games in pre-season for Fulham. So I do like Smith Rowe from the start. On to defenders now. First one in my team is going to be Porro. Now, this is only a late call for me, and it's what tipped me over the edge is the fact that Leicester, who they play in game week 1, have no strikers, and Everton, who they play in game week 2, aren't the best attack. And we know that Porro's attacking output is similar to Trent. So if Porro can keep a clean sheet against Leicester or Everton and continue with his normal attacking output, he could score a lot of points in the opening few weeks. So for that reason, I'm going to put him in. Next defender, I'm going to be putting in Gabriel. Now, Arsenal are unquestionably, for me, the best defence in the league. So I think it'd be a good idea to have a defender from the best defence in the league. He's also got good attacking potential as well. We've seen him score, I think, 10 goals in the last 3 seasons just from set pieces. And I know there's some question about rotation with Calafiori, but if Gabriel's getting 8 out of 10 games for Arsenal, I still think he's worth it. And you can play him in almost any game because Arsenal can keep a clean sheet in almost any game, as they proved last season where they didn't even concede against Man City. And Calafiori also, I feel like, is going to be used more at left back in this first season. Don't get me wrong, there will be some rotation. But even if you consider someone like Saliba, I think Saliba will get rotated equally with Timber at right centre-back just because they'll need to rest him at some point. Next defender, Trent. With the fixtures and how far forward he's going to be playing under slot, I think he's essential. I saw him in his pre-season friendly, the pre-season friendly where he was getting so far forward. He set up Jota's goal as well. And even though it was only 1 game, I think he's got so much pedigree in the league that you have to trust him, especially with these fixtures. And this is the cheapest that he's been in a while as well, at 7 million. Previously, he's been 7.5, 8.5. I think he's good value despite being the most expensive defender in the game. Next, Murillo. Now, I just really like Forest fixtures, and I think they're a decent defence. He's a centre-back. I still think he can get an attacking return somewhere in here. He's quite big, so from set pieces, maybe Southampton, Bournemouth, Fulham traditionally aren't the best at defending set pieces. He's also just technically a very good footballer, and at 4.5 I think he's a good option. As you can see, these good fixtures run right the way through to around game week 10, so I think he's a no-brainer really for my team. The last defender slot I'm going to be using for Mykolenko. Now, a lot of people are saying you can go to a 4.0 defender. I just don't really see the attraction to any of them when you can just pay the extra 0.5 for a guaranteed starter for a decent defence, as opposed to either going with a defence of a promoted team or going for a 4.0 like Barco, where you don't know if he's going to start week in, week out. So I think Mykolenko is definitely worth the extra 0.5. And similar to Calvert-Lewin, obviously, because they play for the same team, they have a good stretch of fixtures in this kind of first quarter of the season. Lastly, keepers. I'm putting Sells in. I've explained why I like Forest as a defence in terms of their fixtures. And their defensive data isn't that bad in terms of expected goals conceded. Sells also, I think, will be the number 1. I don't think it will be Carlos Miguel, who Nottingham Forest signed, just because Miguel doesn't actually have that much experience, not just in the Premier League, but in general, even in the other leagues that Miguel has played in. He doesn't have that much experience, so I expect Sells to start as the number 1 instead. Finally, the least important position, my backup keeper, Valdemarsson. He's 4.0, and I'm choosing him because Brentford, with Flecken in goal as their number 1, I don't rate Flecken that highly. And I think out of all the keepers with a 4.0 deputy, Flecken is the most likely to get dropped. So we could see Valdemarson become the starting keeper at some point in the season for Brentford. But I plan to just play Sells in all the matches, even the tougher fixtures, because you can play keepers. If you play Sells against Liverpool away, he's going to make a lot of saves. And so unless he concedes like 4 or 6 goals, he could get an okay score, like a 2 or 3 pointer. So it's not really that much to worry about. Anyway, this is my team with a few hours to go. Subject to a bit of tinkering maybe, but I'm pretty confident that this will be what I go with. So yeah, I guess we'll see how the season unfolds.